Is among us, guys. It is here. The 50th year is here. September is the 7th month. It is the 7th year. And we're about to usher in the Super Shemitah. 7 times 7. How interesting. Along with the eclipse on the Feast of Trumpets. Interesting. Now, if you have your Bibles, turn to Genesis 6:3. I want you to see something. Genesis 6:3. I want you, this is very important. Very important. Let me read that to you. It says, "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever. For he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years." Last one. This is vital, guys. This is very vital on what we're reading right now. Genesis 6:3. Very vital. He said he will not strive with man, but only for 120 years. We are about to usher the 120th Jubilee year next month. If you've never received Jesus Christ, if you don't know who he is, today is the day you need to know him. I believe in my heart that we are at the end. That God is about to throw judgment upon this world. That's my opinion. And I, as a pastor, have to tell you where we're at. Not to put fear in you, but to ready you, to prepare your hearts for what may be coming very, very soon. You don't see it up here in Paso Robles right now, but there may be something coming very, very big to this nation. And we must be in prayer. 2 cautions. We don't put God in a box. God may just say, I'm going to wait. The other caution is something could happen, and we need to be ready to prepare our hearts to receive Jesus. And I'm going to tell you right now, I want to invite Ben up also. Take a seat beside him. The most important thing that you will have to hold on to right now, the most important thing that you will have to hang on to is your faith in Jesus Christ. Your home, your cars, your money, it will mean nothing. It would literally mean nothing. Your hope in Jesus Christ is the most important thing that you will have to hang on to. Persecution is coming, whether we see it or not. When I see the Dow Jones go 6 days and lose 2.1 trillion in 6 days, imagine what could come very soon. Amen. Now, I'm going to have a question and answer with Brother Ben. If you have any questions to ask me or Ben right now, you can. Glenn, can you remove me? I'm going to ask you some questions on what he's seeing. Can you welcome Ben? Ben, please. Ben Quick is here to help. Give him a hand, please. Thank you. Yeah. All right, so can you get that mic behind you, Mr. Ben? I think the mic will help a little bit. Maybe we can hear you a little bit more. Can you test that? Make sure you got that mic on. That's on. Okay. Yeah. Put it around. There we go. All right. Well, Ben Quick is up. Me and him have some conversations about what's going on in the world, what's happening around the world, what can happen soon. Ben Quick has a lot of knowledge on the economy, on biblical issues. So I asked him to help me with these questions. And if you have any questions to ask, you can raise your hand, or if you want to write a little note to somebody, Jenna, if you want to ask somebody to write a note, they can give Jenna a note. You don't have to get up and ask. If you're embarrassed, maybe you can ask Jenna to ask. Jenna, you can stand there to ask you. All right, Ben, first of all, welcome, man. why do pastors, Christians kind of shy from prophecy? Is it, what do you think? Why do they shy from prophecy?
So the way I see it, and the Bible talks about in the last days that people will depart from the truth and people will heed to doctrines of devils. And I think a lot of it is it scares people. And the modern day church, I'm not saying this is true about everybody, but the modern day church is more about getting people in and tickling people's ears and people leaving with a feel-good message in their heart. They see it as scaring people. But, if you're standing in the middle of the road and I see a bus coming at you, and if I don't warn you that that bus is coming and you're hit by it and killed, the blood is on my hands. So the way I see prophecy, it's not to scare people, it's to warn people of what's coming so that you can be prepared. Because so many Christians, they come to church, they hear, they go home, they're supposed to start looking at their watch after a while, they want to go home. But they don't understand what's coming. They don't feel the urgency, because if you feel the urgency of something coming, you're going to prepare for it. And I think so many pastors these days, so many churches, so many believers are scared because we're not prepared. They're scared about, if this happens, what's going to happen to my car, my TV, the Super Bowl this year. I want to see my team go to the Super Bowl. So I think a lot of
I believe it, yeah.
The love of the world and the love of materialism that has crept in. And we studied about that.
Especially in this nation.
Absolutely.
Everybody has their cars, their money, their credit cards, their money, right. They're in love with material more than the Word of God. Now, let me ask you this. Last year, the blood moon that happened, the first blood moon in the Feast of Passover, right away we've seen what? We've seen Hamas attack Israel. We've seen Ebola break out. ISIS they were revealed and they started to kill Christians. Genocide of Christians in that Middle East. Now, Pastor Ray Bentley from Maranatha Catholic Chapel, and we were at lunch one day, and as I spoke to him, he said it felt like there was a portal from heaven and from hell that opened after that first blood moon. And it seems like it's accelerated more faster, more quicker than things that we're seeing. For example, talks of the New World Order have increased among world leaders. Christian persecution has increased. What do you think about that? What would you say about those things?
Yeah, definitely. The Bible does talk about these things happening in the last days. And, we're definitely seeing it. Part of it is, I don't know if you're ready to talk about the CERN, but if anybody's been following kind of what's going on with the CERN, it's a group of scientists who are trying to discover the God particle. Right. And there's a lot of renowned scientists saying, it's a collision, it's a particle collider. Right. And they're trying to split molecules so they can find that dark matter that holds together. They want to find out what the creation is called the God particle. And they don't know. They're firing up this hadron collider, this particle collider, in September.
Right. September.
They're going to fire it off. And Stephen Hawking, scientists really renounced that, said, you do not know what you're playing with. They're trying to literally open up the portals of heaven and hell. They're trying to discover.
Now do you think that we can see Revelation chapter 9 with that, with the...
Absolutely.
With
the opening to the key.
The opening to the key, where the star fell down.
Yes.
And the opening of the abyss.
Right. So everybody knows the story of Daniel in the lion's den, and the angel that came down, Gabriel, wrestled with the prince. Why did you take so long? While I was wrestling with the spirit prince of Persia. That's a principality. There's some pretty bad principalities. And if anybody understands, you have the archangels in heaven. Principalities were their equivalent. There are archangels that followed Satan and were cast out. So these are pretty nasty creatures. And a lot of them have been captured and bound in the pit. It's just like when Jesus came into that town and the demonic man came out of the grave and he was full of legion, and they said, don't throw us into the pit. The demons are afraid of this pit because they know that they're going to be bound there. Right. So that is the pit that you're referring to. So there's these nasty principalities that are bound in that pit. And in the book of Revelation, it says this angel was given the key to go down and unlock the pit and loose these nasty demons. And Apollyon being one of them, who's the destructor. And he's going to bring death and destruction upon the world. So I absolutely think there is.
And I would tell everybody here that if you don't know what CERN is, CERN, check it out on the internet. It's nothing that we're making up. I recently found out about Shark. I just found out about those guys. It's a real agency in Switzerland. These guys are throwing this machine out, big machine, that they're playing with the spiritual world. And from what I understand, that's already fired up.
It's already fired up.
But they want to get to the fastest point in September.
99.9% the
Yeah.
speed of light, so they can collide these particles and break them apart and find that dark matter. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right. Does anybody have any questions you want to ask before I get to the next one? Anybody else want to ask a question? Anything you're interested in and want to find out? Don't be afraid to ask. I mean, this is the time. And if not, we'll be around, but maybe somebody else might have, the same question you have. But with the Shemitah year here, Ben, and the Jubilee year at hand, the Super Shemitah,
Super Shemitah, that's right.
what do you think could happen? Now, I know what I think, especially with Syria and Israel heating up. Do you see war as the last Jubilees? We've seen the last Jubilees, there were
Yeah,
wars.
absolutely. So war, as you said before, war brings restoration, and Ezekiel chapters 38, 39 talk about the war of Gog and Magog. Now, the study of these wars, these are cities in Russia, and it talks about an alliance of Russia leading an alliance of Muslim nations down against Israel. And people say, well, it doesn't seem like it'd be that bad right now. Russia's extremely against anti-Semitic, against the Jews, against Israel. They're arming Iran. They're building their nuclear program. They're sending them advanced weapons of warfare. Now, we released the sanctions, so we freed all this money, so they're on a spending spree. They're buying a lot of lethal, not just defensive weapons, but offensive weapons. So Russia comes against, you say, well, people always kind of expect to build up to the war, but the interesting thing about Ezekiel, when it talks about it, is God puts a hook in their jaw and drags them out. There's so many times in the Bible, in the Old Testament, when God raised up an army to come against Israel in judgment. And he went and he stirred the hearts of that king. He said, you will rise up and you will come down against my people Israel. So it doesn't have to be this long buildup. And all of these events that come, they can be stirred up instantly. God puts that chain in their jaw and he yanks them down. That's pretty violent sounding. And this nation comes against, this alliance comes against Israel. And the Bible says that this is all to reveal the glory of God and his power, because Israel is supernaturally delivered from this army that comes against them. It is such a huge, massive army. It says 5/6 of them are destroyed by flame and fire, brimstone, the miracles of God. Now, some people say it could be nuclear war, tactical nukes, whatever it is. They're driven all the way back to Siberia. It takes 7 months to bury the dead after that. God sends every beast and bird of the air into the field to devour and have a feast on the flesh. But out of it though, the people of Israel start seeing the power and the glory of God. So it becomes a restoration.
Right. Now, you have a question?
I have a question because, and I need some clarification, because I know that on September 15th, again, another day that's in September, that isn't it the UN that has to do a vote that whether or not they're going to give and divide up Israel to a little bit to the Palestinian nation?
Yes.
And again, this is something
That's
that's
humongous.
going against God,
Yeah.
and I don't see him letting that happen.
Right. There's so many things going on next month that we can't even go one by one. That's a very good point, Jenna. There's a lot more things that I didn't even mention that's going to happen next month. So it's like it's converging on September. A lot of things are converging in September that can cause a lot of chaos. So, very good point. Yes.
And the Bible says the land of Israel, it doesn't even belong to the Jewish. They don't even have the right to divide it. So whether their government votes in to separate and to give Palestine, it's not the right. Only God. God is sovereign. He's the only one that has the right. So even Israel playing with that is playing with fire.
Right. Let me ask you this. There is so much money that the government is printing. Every month they print money more and more and more that's keeping the nation afloat.
Yeah.
Now, it has to bust. It has to burst.
Absolutely.
The bubble has to break sooner or later. Like we've seen in 01, we've seen in 08. The question is, could this third strike, could it cause a worldwide effect, like what I believe? Now, I want your opinion. Or many people, they're kind of putting their heads in the sand. Whether it's a fear, they don't want to hear about it, they don't want to think about it. And they said, well, that's nothing new. It's happened before. We broke in 01, we broke in 08, we passed those, we passed this. Now, what would you say to that to people that think like that?
Okay, so kind of to rewind back in history. So the U.S. dollar is the global reserve currency. Everybody knows that. Buying, selling, trade. I won't get into this special drawing rights and everything. That's a whole other series. But you kind of have to go back to 2001 when the economic collapse happened. They had Plan A, which was to lower the prime interest rates, right, to stimulate the economy, to get people borrowing and buying and investing. So they had that tool in their kit. Unfortunately, that led way along with the deregulation of the banks prior to that. That gave rise to the housing bubble, the subprime market that we saw, which took down the economy in 2008. Now, in 2008 happened, they already had lowered the prime, so they went to plans B and C, which was start injecting, called quantitative easing, and you can read about that on the internet too. Printing fire presses and just start injecting money into the economy, the TARP, the bank bailouts. Most of the banks didn't want to take the bailout, but the government says you will take it because we don't want the general public to know which banks are in trouble. So if you all take it, they'll think this is just a widespread, and there won't be this widespread panic. Well, we fired up the press. We've been printing money. We've been injecting it into the global economy. It's been significantly devaluing our currency. And what happens is, right now at $17 trillion of debt, about 85 cents of every dollar goes towards interest. So you think about that. If you're trying to pay off your credit card and 85 cents of everything that you give goes right to the debt, you're never really paying off the principal amount. So what's going to happen, I think 20 trillion or so is the sweet spot,
Right.
where at that point you're at 100%, you're actually over 100%, so you're not ever going to even touch that principal. So what happens at that point, people stop lending. China's a big holder of U.S. currencies,
Right.
U.S. treasuries. There's a lot of people that aren't friendly to America that hold our treasuries. So absolutely, you're going to see that bust, and what's going to happen in 2008, it caused a ripple effect. The collapse,
Right.
Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, the tanking of the market, it caused a ripple effect. Nobody understood just how entwined the global market was until that happened, until they felt that shock. I think there's only 2 countries in the world that were not affected by the U.S. economic collapse. So when this happens, it's going to be on such a large scale. We've already seen what Greece is doing to Europe,
Right.
which is doing to Asia.
Seen
We're seeing
Greece.
what China, the devaluation of their currency, is doing to the Dow Jones. So it's the ripple effect. You pull the thread here, and it starts unraveling. So absolutely, this is going to lead into a global economic collapse. The dollar's going to go, global currencies are going to go, but this is what the IMF, the WTO, the World Bank, they've all been preparing for, is a super currency. They have one. It's called the bank board. You can look that up too. They're preparing for a global economic collapse so they can slide into global currency, and that becomes a de facto standard.
Right. Let me ask you this. As we're seeing the world being affected by this, is it wise to use caution as far as, because you just mentioned bringing in new currency. Now that may take time. It won't be overnight. I don't believe.
Yeah.
Is it wise to prepare to get some canned food, some survival kits, some water, just
Yeah, absolutely.
to be wise?
Absolutely it is.
Because people think I'm not trying to be an alarmist.
No.
I'm not trying to be the spiritual kind of guy, but what do you think? Look,
I mean, so go back to the Old Testament when Joseph was given the revelation about the famine in Egypt, and they talked about storing for 7 years for the drought that was coming. That's godly wisdom, even though there was judgment and a famine and everything coming. They still prepared, right? So the Lord wants us to be prepared, right? We need to be prepared physically as well as spiritually, right? So it is wise to always, because you know what? Even if it's not a super calamity like the war returning or the economic collapse or whatever it is, of course, war returning, none of us beat it, right? But any kind of, we can have an earthquake tonight, and the power can go, it can bust water mains, we can be without water and without power, and the grocery store is shut down, we can't get money out of the ATM. So it's always